2024 regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole of the Hopkinsville City Council. I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Francis.
Here.
Councilmember Smiley.
Here.
Councilmember Marsh.
Here.
Councilmember Crabtree.
Here.
Councilmember Craig.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Wilcox.
Here.
Councilmember Meek.
Here.
Councilmember Lumberger.
Here.
Councilmember Keel.
Here again, second time this week.
Councilmember Bell.
Here.
Councilmember Handy.
Present.
Everyone is here and we have a quorum.
Everybody, please rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. The minutes from the March 21st meeting were in your packets. Everybody had a chance to review those. We will entertain a motion.
Yeah, motion. Second.
I got Marsh and Crabtree. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Going to jump right down into administrative matters. And I'd like to call on Bryan Silver. If you don't mind, Bryan, just step up to the podium. And I'd like to introduce Bryan. Bryan is our interim general manager at Hopkinsville Solid Waste. And Bryan is a 1997 graduate of Hamilton Central School in Hamilton, New York. After completion of high school, he joined the United States Army as a combat engineer. After completion of basic combat training and advanced individual training, Bryan was stationed at a variety of posts, including Fort Campbell, Kentucky, Fort Polk, Louisiana, and Fort Buchanan, Puerto Rico. Bryan's list of Army schools include, and I'm going to butcher this one, Sebelowski. Did I get it? Am I close? Sebelowski. I was in the ballpark. Great. Air Assault School, Warrior Leader Course, Advanced Leader Course, Jungle Warfare School, and Unit Movement School. After 9/11, Bryan completed 2 deployments to Iraq and 1 to Afghanistan. Bryan has served in Army leadership roles, including squad leader and platoon sergeant. After the Army, Bryan worked in the excavation industry on infrastructure projects on Fort Campbell in the greater Hopkinsville-Clarksville area. In 2013, Bryan went to work for Waste Connections Incorporated in White Plains, Kentucky. Bryan rose through the ranks from equipment operator, truck driver, landfill gas tech. Then Bryan entered and completed the Waste Connections Management Training Program, where he was certified as a landfill operator and manager by the state of Kentucky. At this time, Bryan was also accepted to Campbellsville University into their business administration program with an emphasis in management. Bryan will soon complete his studies. In October of 2020, he came to work for Hopkinsville Solid Waste Enterprise as a landfill manager, helping the company through their landfill expansion project. The Hopkinsville Solid Waste Enterprise Board selected Bryan as the interim general manager in their April 4th special called meeting. And before I turn it over to Bryan, I'd like to recognize Ms. Lee Durden and David Collins, 2 of the board members from Hopkinsville Solid Waste, as well as myself. And I just wanted to bring Bryan in here tonight since he has been accepted as the interim general manager. As I told him, you need to meet all these folks because when it's time to suck up leaves, these are the ones that are going to be calling. So, ladies and gentlemen, Bryan Silver.
Welcome. Good evening, council members. I would like to thank the Hopkinsville Solid Waste Enterprise Board for their trust and confidence in giving me the opportunity to lead Hopkinsville Solid Waste Enterprise going forward and allowing me to serve the citizens of our great community. It is an esteemed privilege to work with Hopkinsville's Solid Waste Enterprise's outstanding men and women. I'm dedicated to creating a great place to work for our employees. They work extremely hard, keeping our city clean and beautiful, and deserve nothing but the best. I will operate Hopkinsville Solid Waste Enterprise with 100% transparency so that our integrity will never come into question. And I will work tirelessly to ensure that the citizens of Hopkinsville receive the very best in customer service from our trash and recycling programs. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer?
Welcome.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Brian. And the advice I gave Brian last night is ask for questions, count to 3, and turn and run. He did a good job with that. So now we're going to move on to our insurance update. Going to call on Lee Conrad and Mac Major. Y'all would step up to the mic, gentlemen.
Thank you. David Collins didn't see fit to see my exciting presentation, so thanks, David. But, appreciate y'all having us tonight. And I want to thank you all for entrusting us to help you all with this very important matter. My name is Lee Conrad. I'm a partner and a risk advisor at Higgins Insurance. And I was asked by Mr. Gabar and your administrative team to give you all an update on your commercial property and casualty insurance, where we stand right now and where we see things going. So if you will go to that first slide, please, the coverage summary. Right now, just to give you a kind of an overview of where we are in the market from a macro level, from a 10,000 foot level. Property and casualty insurance. Property insurance, and I'll show you a kind of a stark illustration. I hate that tonight we've got a chance for severe weather, but the property insurance market globally is in pretty much chaos right now. Everything from your homeowner's insurance, if you've watched that, all the way up to the largest property schedules on the planet are undergoing great change. And the fact that we are kind of in one of the areas that has seen that big impact of damage and storms, weather-related type events, is putting an even tougher lens on our region. And it's not just the tornadic or severe weather events, it's also the wild freezes that we've had that have caused huge property claims related to pipes busting. I'm sure you all remember, I guess it was 3 or 4 winters ago, whenever we had that huge freeze and the storm came up through Texas, and there were hundreds or 75-story skyscrapers where they're having to bust the windows out to get the water to drain out because the sprinklers had exploded. And that's covered by property insurance, and it was millions and millions of claims. So the property market is in complete disarray. Liability insurance for municipalities specifically is under a tremendous amount of pressure in Kentucky. And there's a simple reason for that. The state Supreme Court, and I'm not judging one way or the other, saw fit that the state constitution did not offer the level of immunity, sovereign immunity to police officers that had been traditionally given. And they stripped away most of that about 3 or 4 years ago. It was a case in Georgetown, Kentucky. And when that happened, we started seeing a flood, many of them frivolous, of lawsuits related to law enforcement liability claims. And the unfortunate part of that is many of them get thrown out, but courts are now hearing them, and the defense or the effort to get those thrown out is very expensive. Easily, sometimes $40,000 or $50,000 just to get the lawyer to get the case dismissed over the course of 6 months or a year. It's very frustrating. It's causing a lot of stress. And it's quite frankly, it's chasing some of the insurance carriers that will write public entities in the state of Kentucky out. And so if you're a county and you have a jail, there's maybe 1 or 2 options in the standard market, and that would include the Kentucky Association of Counties. And then if they won't do it, then you've got to go to the substandard market, and the cost is astronomical. So be thankful you don't operate a jail. And candidly, I think that this particular issue is one thing that the KLC, KCO, the insurance industry, and others need to be addressing with the legislature. I don't know if it would require a constitutional amendment, what needs to be done, but giving our police officers some level of security that they're not going to be held personally responsible for doing their job is something that I think there needs to be a focus on, because not just financially, but also for their peace of mind and because of the sacrifice they make. So in terms of your public officials and automobile insurance, the public officials is what covers you all in the event that you all do something that somebody just doesn't like. It doesn't have, it's the claims that don't involve bodily injury or property damage, liability claims. So The example I always use is the pink hair example. No offense to people with pink hair, but let's say you guys decide to not let people with pink hair come to city council meetings anymore. If they decide to sue you because of that decision, then that's what public officials insurance covers. The good news tonight, I feel like I'm the Grim Reaper and Darth Vader all at once here lately, but the good news tonight for you all in particular is your workers' compensation insurance, and I know I've talked about this for several years now, your safety program is working. And you all will see through this bid process you're going through right now, when you get that renewal, I feel very confident you'll see another reduction in your cost with workers' compensation insurance. And that's because you all operate a very good and safe work environment for the employees. And then cyber liability, a couple of years ago when I was standing here, the worst news I had that night was cyber liability insurance market is upside down. And the types of things that aggravate the heck out of us, like that multi-factor authentication where you get a text message and you got to punch that code in, those steps that are being taken by you all and others in the world are really driving down the number of ransomware claims, which was causing the spike in the price and, quite frankly, the inability to buy cyber liability insurance. So the fact that you all are doing those things has done two things for you. It's allowed you to buy more coverage because, frankly, you probably needed more, so now you have more coverage. And number two, we're seeing prices actually drop there. People ask me, well, do you think the same thing's going to happen with property insurance? And I said, until we can figure out a way to stop storms, I don't know how we stop that. We figured out a way to stop some of the cyber attacks. Property insurance is going to be the challenge because, some genius is going to have to figure out a way to stop a tornado, and I don't know what it is yet. So this next slide is the illustration of your all's workers' compensation success and your safety success. You see in the 22-23 term, that's a big number, but it's really just one or two claims that's causing that. And so the workers' compensation carriers, the way they work the algorithm on your mod rate, which is the way you're compared to other people who do what you do or other municipal governments, it punishes frequency of claims more than it does severity because they always assume something is going to happen eventually. We just don't want to see the volume of claims that could lead to multiple severe claims. But even that $200,000 number is not a terrible year. 65,000, 8,000, outstanding. Next slide, please. So your all's current insurance program, as I mentioned earlier, we are in the midst, really kind of at the tail end of your bid process. In the coming, hopefully, week, we will receive the bids for your all's insurance. We sent it out to market this year. Your staff has kind of undergone a root canal, meeting with people, answering a myriad of questions, everything ranging from what kind of chemicals do you use all the way down to what's your policy and procedure to make sure that your sidewalks are well maintained. And so we're in the tail end of that process. We anticipate having bids in the next week, and we will see where things stand. Your workers' compensation premium, because those rates are public, the carriers have to publish those rates. And because we know what your mod rate is going to be for 2024, 2025, I can make a pretty good guess, and I feel comfortable that 142 number is the worst case scenario. So Melissa is, I know, anxiously awaiting those numbers. There's the good news. Cyber liability, we don't anticipate a significant change there. Again, perhaps maybe even a slight decrease in that premium. The next slide, and this is really, the biggest illustration of why we see such turmoil in the property market. Unfortunately, Kentucky is not Oklahoma in football. Unfortunately, Kentucky is Oklahoma in terms of how we're viewed by the insurance industry in terms of storms. The very top middle map you see there is the tornado risk factor from 1992 to 2011, according to the National Weather Service. And if you look down at these two bottom maps, they haven't published that map yet for the last few years, but these two down on the bottom illustrate, the one on the bottom left is January 1st to today, the number of tornado warnings between January 1st and today across the country. I would note that does not include the December 9th event that was so destructive in our region. So that's what the insurance industry is seeing. And then the bottom right is kind of the trend for the entire nation for tornado risk. And if you would look at that map for 20 years ago, it would have stopped pretty much around the Mississippi River and not been nearly as bad. And so that's on a macro level. And then if we go, and this is no fault of the cities at all, what the next slide I'm going to show you, but it just illustrates the stress that we are seeing from property claims related to weather events. In the 10-year period from 2011 to 2020, the city had $185,000 in weather-related property claims. In the last 3 years, that number is approaching $1 million. And again, that's nobody's fault. It's Mother Nature's fault. And so I say that to just simply give a picture of why we're seeing the chaos. And frankly, my biggest concern as an insurance agent is not the prices. The insurance companies could raise rates, they could double them, triple them, and they would still be getting their clocks cleaned in our area. My biggest concern in the work that myself and Melissa and Troy and your executive leadership team are going to do is we go through these bids with a fine-tooth comb is looking at the terms and conditions, because what insurance companies are doing right now is they're raising deductibles, and they're not raising them from $5,000 to $10,000. They're saying on a $10 million building like this, we're going to put a 1 or 2% wind and hail deductible on that, meaning 1 or 2% of the total value, so $100,000 or $200,000. And so it becomes your insurance agent's responsibility to go figure out solutions to buy that deductible down and to see if it makes financial sense. And so we're going to work on that. The good news is it's a tough year, but it's the right year to go to market, because last year the renewal wasn't great, but it was not draconian. If we were not out to bid this year, I believe the insurance carrier would be a draconian renewal. They would know they don't have competition. And so that's where the focus is going to be, is not just the price, but also making sure that the terms and conditions are as favorable to you all as possible, so you can have some clarity in your budget. Because, you know, my goodness, we had December night storms 3 years ago. Then New Year's morning, we had a tornado in downtown Hopkinsville, and that deductible isn't for a year. It's every event. So we're going to be working really hard on that. It's going to be a process, but I think that because you all are doing the right things and everything that you can control, we're going to get competitive bids for this market. So again, I wish the news was better, but frankly, you all are doing everything you can. And that's shown in those inspections and meetings and the root canal of questions that your staff has been dealing with. There's your team. And any questions, comments, concerns? Yes, ma'am.
Do you foresee this getting worse?
Candidly, I think I don't.
You don't?
Because whenever if you take what they want to do, and we do what's called a cost of risk analysis, where we take, okay, so if you had this deductible, what would the insured, the city, have paid, and what would the insurance company have paid? That $1 million gets reduced pretty significantly. And so I think the pendulum will swing back a little bit at some point. We're already seeing signs of that in what we call the reinsurance market. So your insurance company actually goes and buys insurance too. So they insure up to a certain point, and then if there's a catastrophic loss, there's somebody else who takes on that big catastrophic loss. 6 months, 9 months ago, that was even worse than it is now, and we're starting to see capacity free up. In fact, it's kind of wild to think this, but I was in a conference a couple of months ago, and I was learning about the reinsurance market, and this gentleman it was about the most corporatist thing I've ever heard said, but it's the world he lives in, said they actually want to see a severe hurricane in Florida this year to prove to investors in reinsurance that they can withstand it. And so that tells us that there's a freeing up of capacity so that insurers can go buy more insurance. That was the challenge 9 months ago, a year ago, is they couldn't go buy that insurance. And so they were just canceling. But now the reinsurance companies are who are telling them, take on larger deductibles and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry if that was a weird answer, but it's like I said, I feel like Darth Vader and the Grim Reaper at the same time a little bit right now. And I guess to even further illustrate the point I made earlier, we insure several school districts in this region, public school districts. There have been about 5 significant weather-related claims with those 6 or 7 school districts. And in those 5 or 6 events, it's added up to about $8 million in property claims in the last 3 years. So it's just, it's not just you, it's everybody. And your all's property traditionally, governmental entities, schools, county governments, if you look at the buildings you all have, they are concrete fortresses. They're supposed to be the best to insure. And unfortunately, 2-inch hail and tornadoes don't care about that.
Any
Any
more
other
questions for
questions?
Lee?
If y'all will excuse me, I'm going to go to the Alhambra Theater. So thank you all. Have a good night.
You go enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
It should be fun.
And we'll expect an updated profile picture on the slide next year.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
You can thank Councilmember Martin for that one.
That's all right. I think it's gotten to the point now, if like nobody's ever seen me before, they don't even know it's me.
I've known you since that picture.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lee.
I will be back probably after July to give you an update on how things change, but I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee.
Have a good day.
Appreciate you.
Mr. Major, good to see you.
How you doing, man?
Good to be seen. Thank you all. Just echo Lee's comment on our great appreciation for the confidence and trust that City of Hopkinsville has in Higgins Insurance. Your property, casualty, workers' comp, employee benefit programs, a lot of money is being spent. And we get that. And we treat it as if it's our own program. So thanks again once for having confidence in us. I'm Mac Major. I head up the benefits department at Higgins Insurance. I've been very fortunate to help the City of Hopkinsville with its benefit program for almost 30 years, a long time. So appreciate that. As everyone here is aware, the City of Hopkinsville has established its own insurance company, and we're managing that benefit program through that insurance company. And every single year, especially for the last 5 for certain, when claims costs have kind of gotten somewhat volatile, we've always checked that fully insured traditional marketplace to make certain that with what the City of Hopkinsville is doing makes the most sense. And, you know, I went back and looked at when we went through the renewal process, which runs on a calendar year basis, not a fiscal year basis for you guys. The fully insured proposal was about $1 million more. Just doesn't make financial sense to do that. Although it's predictable, you know what your costs are going to be, but they're $1 million more. So that we can check that box, and we're going to continue to watch that. But historically, the City of Hopkinsville has managed this self-funded program with great success. Unfortunately, the last about 3 years, it's just the path has just been pretty rocky. You know, claims costs have really escalated, and in this chart that's very difficult to read, you know, our claims costs have increased 9% from last year, and last year was a bad year, you know, and it's 14% higher than in 2022, and 2022 wasn't that good a year either. And we've had to spend some of our reserves or some of our savings to sort of fund the program, because to be truthful with you, the program is not being funded adequately on a monthly basis. You know, the City of Hopkinsville is putting money into the program. Your employees through payroll deduction are putting money into the program, and it's just not been enough. And so what's driving these claims? Well, in the first quarter of 2024, the number of individual claims with large claims has just spiked a little bit. So history says that'll settle down a little bit. Pharmacy cost, you can't turn on the television at night and see a pharmaceutical advertising. The only country in the world that allows that. Let me tell you something. Pharmacy spend has gotten way out of control. It's up about 13% year to date from last year. That trend's going to continue, but one thing that we have negotiated with Anthem, who is our administrator and our pharmacy provider, is 100% of the manufacturer discount rebates that come back for members taking expensive medications. Anthem used to keep those. Well, now they don't. Now they all come back to the city of Hopkinsville. And since that had been negotiated on behalf of the city's received about $95,000 back in these rebates. And I anticipate that number probably doubling over the next 12 months. So that's going to help some. But is that going to totally resolve the funding issue that we have in our program? And the answer is no. On the next slide, just real quickly, our health trust balance at the beginning of this plan year was $462,000. 3 months later, it's cut almost, it's cut in half. So, if we continue on the track that we're on in 2024, when we get to the fiscal year end or beginning of next year, that reserve balance is going to be on empty. And I've said this 100 times to leadership and to council. We need to have reserves in this program. We need to have reserves in this program to take care of medical inflation, but more importantly, if the city of Hopkinsville ever decides to get out of the insurance business and funding its employee benefit program, there's going to have to be reserves there to pay your exit cost. And that's somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000. And for the longest period of time, we had those types of reserve balances and plus some. But just the last few years have just been pretty tough on the health trust. And it is impossible for me to predict what it's going to look like this time next year because I don't have a crystal ball. But if the trend continues, when you all start making decisions about what we're going to fund into the program, I can tell you with confidence, if we're going to try to start building surpluses, it's going to require more monies put into the plan. I was told to be brief, so that's a 10,000-foot perspective. We are watching this very closely. I watch these claims on a monthly basis. And, every time, I pull up a report, I have my fingers crossed that it's good. And, and that's no guarantee that it makes it good. Yes, Chuck.
So Mac, I'm looking at the health trust reserve balance where it was in March. If you were to make a recommendation to the city, where would you put that number?
Well, I'll tell you, if you'll go back to the last slide, and this is a scary number, but if you look at the highlighted section, through 3 months, that $1,219.28, that's what the per employee cost has been through 3 months. $980 is what the city and its employees are contributing to the plan. This 239 number is the deficit number. Well, if you take $239 times 225 participating employees times 12, that number is about $600,000. And that's a scary number. And that's just to break even. That's making the assumption that the trend of $1,219 spend is flat. It can get a lot better. I've seen it get a lot better. Right. But I can't guarantee that it's going to stay flat, get better, or get worse. I can just tell you, if you look historically, just the last 3 years have just been, it's been a rocky path. And we've had to use reserve balances to fund it, and we've had to inject dollars into the program. And you, on a number of occasions, have had to put lump sum contributions into the plan to keep it alive. Are there other lower cost alternatives out there? I mean, there are so few insurance companies in the market space, and going fully insured makes, only benefit it brings is predictability,
Right.
but at a much higher cost. And we're partnering with Anthem to provide us the benefit program, but more importantly, they're providing us the discounts when our members, you go to the doctor in the hospital, and their discounts are better than anybody's. So I'm 100% convinced we're doing the right thing. It's just that the one thing that keeps me up at night with pertaining to this plan is the deficit funding that's taking place today.
Any other questions for Mr. Major?
Great.
You-
I
you can
greatly
take-
appreciate your time this
You can
evening.
take the Bryan Silver advice, count to 3 and run.
I'm going home now.
All right, thank you so
Y'all have a
much.
good evening. Thank you.
Now I guess we'll roll down to our quarterly police department report and Chief Newby. Got those stars all shined up for tonight, don't you, Chief?
Those guys were depressing. All right, so this will be short and sweet. This is information that you all have requested to see. So for our first quarter, you can see our total arrests. We made 704. That's 704 individuals. That doesn't mean 704 charges. The charges are well above that. Those are actually 704 people we've arrested the first 3 months in Hopkinsville. 106 of those were from traffic stops. 208 of those are criminal arrests, ranging from anything from assault first to burglary, homicide. 18 of those arrests were juveniles, and 371 of those arrests were the result of our officers serving arrest warrants. Total collisions, we've worked 251 so far. Luckily, none of those have been fatal. 193 of those included property damage other than vehicles. That means somebody ran into somebody's fence, mailbox, retaining wall, what have you. And 99 of those 251 resulted in injuries. Citations, we've written 1,171. Again, those are individual citations. The counts for some of those citations can carry up to 6 counts. But those are individual. 428 of those were from traffic stops. 246 were from criminal arrest, and 66 of those were juveniles that were cited. Seizures so far, money seized, $11,302.26. We've seized 42 guns off the streets in the first 3 months of this year. almost 47 and a half ounces of meth seized. Fentanyl, a little over 4 ounces, and 236 pills. So typically, one pill is considered a dose. And unfortunately, one pill can be a lethal dose depending on how much fentanyl is placed in those from the pill stamps. Community events, we have a SWAT demonstration at 9:30 here at the Municipal Building, April 27th. May 11th, we have our annual Touch a Truck at Depot Park. And May 25th, we have a cookout with a cop at Joe Mumford Park. We're just going to be grilling. We're going to be out there in plain clothes. We're going to hopefully get some basketball games going with some of the youth there. So if any of you want to have an event in your ward, please reach out to me. We will take care of scheduling it and take care of putting out the media notifications. Just invite everybody and let them know what we're going to be doing. You might have any questions?
Any questions for Chief Newby?
Chief, I can tell y'all been busy. I'm just curious, the numbers you're putting out there, you feel like it's up, down, par for the course for the first 3 months? Or?
I never compare them from one year to the next. I mean, it's easy to say crime's up or crime is down. I don't like doing that because there's no specific pattern of whether judging whether it's up or down. It's going to change every year, so it's really impossible to say. But I will tell you, the second quarter, with the weather getting warmer, we will get busier. Now that it's warm, people are coming out more. They're getting out. They're staying out later. They're getting into more stuff at night. The only thing pretty much guaranteed with stats is the warmer it gets, the more active it's going to get.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chief, actually, I have a question for you, and it's
Yes, sir.
kind of something you and I had already talked about. This council and the previous councils made some pretty substantial investments into the camera systems throughout the city. I know we've had some incidents lately. How are those investments working out for us with your guys?
The cameras are worth the weight in gold. We had one homicide last year, and because of the city cameras, we were able to solve that homicide and make an arrest within 9 hours. We had a shooting recently at the health department. The shooting was caught on camera, and thanks to those cameras, we're able to make an arrest. And we actually have an active warrant out for a second subject that was involved in that incident as well. So those cameras they may not be the best at preventing crime, but they are definitely helping us solve the crime. And all of these numbers, I take no credit in any of this. Everything that is being accomplished at the police department is because of the men and women that wear the badge that are doing it. I give credit to all of them, because without them, all these federal cases that you're seeing, we're starting to be able to prosecute all these numbers, the guns we're getting off the streets. That's our officers doing it. That's not me. So I give them thanks. I give them credit to all that. I appreciate the fire department always being there with us. When we have scenes, we have them on standby. We work good together, and the men and women at the fire department and the police department, it's one big family. But I can't take credit for any of it, but you've got a very good group of officers and firefighters that are doing the best job. I would compare them to any other departments in the state.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Move on to Councilmember Crabtree with our monthly agency and board council appointee report.
So basically, I'm on 4 different boards, committees. Wanted to update you on 2 of them. And I'm not going to steal Bruce's thunder, but I'm on the rental rehab incentive program committee. And this was an ad hoc committee that was put together by council and working with the subject matter experts. And I think you'll see their product tonight. But just the way that worked and the hard work that went in that was the way it really worked and worked well. And kudos to everybody, and especially Bruce. The other committee I want to talk about is weather spotters. That I'm on that board actually. They really do a great service for our community. It takes a special person to get themselves trained. They do a lot of training and have been doing a lot of training, getting ready for the spring storms, and they may end up being out tonight. They use their own gas. They use their own vehicles. They buy most of their own equipment. And then they go out and stand in front of a storm or a tornado so they can report back into a command center, and that word gets put out, to the community, National Weather Service, and others. When I was talking to David today, he wanted me to remind you all, David Powell, Weather and Wisdom. David Powell, Weather and Wisdom. They have a Facebook channel and a YouTube channel, and when the weather gets bad, they will light those 2 channels up, and you can see specifically what's going on in our area with actual reports from the people out in the field looking a tornado or storm in the face. So, kudos for all they do, and just give them, appreciate it.
Thank you, Chuck. Quarterly business list review. It was in your packet. Any questions on the business list? Seeing none. We will move into unfinished business, and we're going to talk about, I think what Chuck kind of gave us a little foreshadowing on, the Legacy Hopkinsville Rental Rehabilitation Incentive Program. Ms. Faulkner, if you would come to the podium. We're going to let Bruce kick it off, and you bring it home. How about that?
First off, I want to thank everyone that was on the committee. We did put a lot of thought and effort into this, and I think we've come out with a good solution. First thing I want to do is, this was the old incentive program. Looks like a book that you had to go through. What we are proposing is 5 pages. It basically gets the same thing done that we were doing in a lot easier format. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura and let her explain what we've done.
All right. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Laura Faulkner, Manager of Community Development at Community Development Services. Thank you for the opportunity to present, and thank you for the opportunity for being on the committee to help make this a more streamlined and more simplified version. So we're just going to recap real quick the existing program requirements. Currently, the property, you look at the assessment of the property, and they're eligible for 25% of that amount with a cap of $10,000 in reimbursement for material costs only. Those reimbursements are only made upon the completion of the project, and the applicant must submit copies of the documents, the invoices, and proof of payment. The property does have to be located in a Legacy Hopkinsville neighborhood, which is adjacent to our downtown core. A property must be insured, and the applicant must be current on all taxes and possess a current business license. Am I supposed to do those? Oh, there we go. Okay. The rehabilitation completion is a 9-month time frame from approval for them to be complete and receive reimbursement. And we do have a right of entry document that all applicants sign so that inspectors can ensure the work is done into compliance with the code. A mortgage and a promissory note is placed on the property for the duration of 5 years, and annually 20% is forgiven as long as they remain compliant with those terms. All parties, the city, the local development corporation, and community development services become an additional insured on the property until the mortgage matures to ensure that they comply with that requirement as well. So we'll move on to statistics. There have been 37 applications approved for this program since its inception, I believe, in March of 2012. 24 units have been successfully completed their rehabilitation, and 8 are currently in process. We had 5 units that were approved, but due to some either policy adherence issue or sale of the property before completion, they were not able to continue, and the approval was rescinded. What you'll see right here are 2 properties that have participated. One is in the Canton Pike neighborhood area. That is 510 West 15th Street, and you'll see the before and after picture at the top. And on the bottom is 827 Maple Court. That's in our Dirt Avenue Neighborhood Association, and they also participated. So as Bruce mentioned, we are looking at simplifying this, streamlining this, and stimulating investment. That were the goals. And as he mentioned, the application is now just 1 page of that 5 pages. There's no paperwork for proof of payment or invoices required. And it must be a recent purchase within 120 days, or 120 days. So eligibility additions, again, must be already compliant with basic property maintenance code, newly acquired within 120 days of the application submission, no active citations or liens on the property, and there will be a limit of 2 applications per year. And we will be sure to not let that criteria be circumvented. Basically, we're looking at incentivizing higher level improvements of energy efficiency and enhanced aesthetics. So if you'll look at the use of funds chart, you'll see that there are different improvements or systems that will be considered. They can basically create a menu of options up to $10,000. So even though there's $11,000 worth of options here, they cannot get more than $10,000 per property. So does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Laura? Councilmember Meek?
I don't have a question, but it's more of a comment. I just want to thank you and your crew. you work seamlessly with that committee, and you're very good at what you do. You helped to simplify it and do the wording. You did a great job helping to pull this together, so I want to just give thanks to you.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody that worked on this. It was a group effort. The committee worked really well. We shared a lot of insights and questions and got to the bottom and didn't let concerns. Everybody was really honest with everybody, and we were able to solve problems really quickly. It was a good use, as Mr. Crabtree said, of talents, opinions, education, and hey, where do we want to go and the goals, how we can get there. So we appreciate it.
And I'm going to kind of toss this back to Bruce, and I don't know if you hit on this or not. If you did, I apologize. I may have missed it. And I think Bruce, this may have been one of your ideas about what we call the green stickers.
Yes.
Can you want to expand on that?
Yes, basically what it is that these, any of these items that they do, like especially your plumbing, electrical and that type thing, it has to be green stickered or approved. And it's the same way, all of these additions, it has to be done correctly. And we will be going back in and checking to make sure that what they say they're doing, that they're going to do. So, again, I want to thank Laura and CDS for working good with the committee and taking our ideas and getting them to where it's simplified. It's not only easier for the applicant, but it's also so much easier for the administration
And we
of the
appreciate
plan.
that.
And that's what that was our goal, and I think we accomplished that. So again, I want to thank everyone on the committee. And with that, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the new incentive program that's been forwarded by the committee.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Smiley, second by Councilmember Martin. So what we'd have to do is the vote will be to send this application to council, be approved in a form of an MO. All right, so got any discussion on that?
I just had a quick question. Someone from CDS, by the way, I just want to echo what the other council members said. Thank you for your hard work. I attended one of those meetings, and it was just a cooperative atmosphere that was there. So the application has to be made within the first 120 days of ownership of the property.
Yes, sir.
And then they're limited to no more than 2 applications per year.
That is correct.
So they make an application this year, they've owned the property 120 days. They really couldn't make a second application. Is that right?
We would consider it at the time of approval, starting that count.
So they could make an application on a separate property, but not that same property.
Correct.
So someone will be with CDS, they'll kind of guide folks through that so they understand property owners will want to take advantage of it, I'm sure. So.
Yes, sir. And we do have a tracking mechanism currently to track, because it's limited to 5 currently per year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do have a tracking mechanism for that as well.
Okay, yeah, good enough. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, motion second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor Knight, you wanted to speak on this?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate everyone doing what they did, hard work on this. It was a few late nights, thanks CDS, because I was not in favor of this. And I believe everyone knows I was not in favor of this. But we have streamlined it, we've made it easier, and we're gonna make it easier for the people in Hopkinsville to redo some houses, and we will move forward. And I'd like to thank you all for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You like what we brought you back, Mayor?
Yeah, a lot better than it was.
I guarantee you.
Thank you all.
That's what I wanted to hear.
I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Laura.
Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Smiley.
While we're on this, since this committee works so well with this particular program, I think there might be some other programs in the Legacy Hopkinsville that we could look at to help streamline some more processes. And I'd like to keep the committee together to look at some of the other programs and possibly look at streamlining some of those also.
All right, so we've got the motion on the floor.
Second.
Councilmember Smiley, second by Councilmember Martin. And the motion is just to continue this, to go through other programs, basically probably one at a time.
Yeah.
And, Mr. Chairman, you just volunteered for a lot of work
I
figuring out
guess
how
so.
we're gonna do that, so. Any
Congrats.
questions on that? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We're gonna continue this one out, and good luck figuring it out, Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you.
All right. So that's going to bring us down to new business, and I'm going to call on Councilmember Chuck Crabtree again
So
for city council pay.
several months ago, I brought up the idea of, actually made a motion of changing the way council is paid. Council members do a lot of work, but we need to be here in our seats. And I even brought up maybe doing some things technological wise, which we cannot do. So basically, I would like to make a motion to change the way the council members are paid. Basically, from what we do today, which is 40 hours a month, times a rate, and we get our rate of pay. I would like to change that to meeting attendance, where we have 3 regularly scheduled meetings per month. We have 2 city council meetings and a council of the whole. And I'd like to be paid for attendance for those meetings. If me, a council person, cannot be here, I'm not in my seat, I can't do my job, I can't vote and represent my ward. So I'd like to change it. That's my motion. To change it from our current plan to 3 meetings a month, get a stipend, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and you're paid if you're here. If you're not, you're not paid.
Motion on the floor.
Second.
Got a second by Councilmember Smiley. Any discussion? No, I'm sorry, not Smiley, Martin. I was looking right at you and called you Smiley. I'm sorry, Bruce. I shouldn't do that to you. All right, Mr. Willen.
Couple things. You're limited in some respect because Kentucky Constitution, Section 161, provides that the compensation of any city, county, town, or municipal officer shall not be changed after his election or appointment or during his term of office, nor shall the term of any such officer be extended beyond the period for which he may have been elected or appointed. So this could only be effective January of 2025. Secondly, the statute that deals with council member pay simply provides the legislative body, and this is section KRS 83A070, the legislative body of each city may by ordinance establish the compensation for any elective city office on a salaried or per diem basis. So your motion would be for on a per diem basis per meeting. So just a clarification.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion on that motion?
I have a question.
All right, fire away.
Are you not causing for the next city council people to be having issues? Is this going to cause a problem for them?
If they're not, whoever wants to answer it, I can tell you what I think, but
Is
Can I
this
make
gonna
a
cause
comment?
problem? That's what I'm asking you, because you're changing it completely from what it used to be. And is it going to cause a problem for the next elected officials that come along, which could be your children, your niece, your nephews, or whoever it is that comes into this place? Is that going to cause a problem for them since it's not affecting us right now?
I don't see how it would cause a problem for them, but I think it might cause a problem for our finance trying to sort through that. Like, I think that might be a lot more work than we want to put on them of keeping track of who's missed a meeting and who hasn't missed a meeting. I mean, as far as we should be here. I mean, there's no doubt we should be here. And I totally get that, but I wonder if that's just more work than we want to put on our payroll people. That's my thoughts. As far as being here, sure, we should absolutely be here. But I'm not sure I could support Chuck on this particular. motion because I don't want to put more work on them.
Councilmember Smiley.
I totally agree that, council members need to be in attendance. But also there's a whole lot of work that's done, not, if it was just coming to 3 meetings a month, this would be a real simple job. But there's a whole lot that goes on between meetings and other meetings that you have and discussions with different things that goes on. So yes, it's very important for council people to be here for the vote, but there's a whole lot of other things in the background that's going on all the time. Discussions and before we, meetings before we get to council, so that it's just like the rehabilitation thing. That's an instance. I mean, there's several council members that was on that committee. And so therefore they were spending time with that too. So I understand the point, but I don't feel like that it should be based on just the attendance of the meetings.
Thank you, Councilmember Smiley. Anybody else? Councilmember Meek.
Yeah, sure. A lot of us have other jobs. My job takes me all across the country every month. I can't always get to every single meeting. And when I stepped into this position, I was asked to come here and do this. So I ran, and it isn't realistic to think that life isn't going to happen for people, because it is. There's going to be times when you miss a meeting. I know that I was in Boston on this week, and I had 3 phone calls about fiber optic cables being put in. All right. 2 weeks ago, there was work being done in Sibley area, and they cleared off the land and they were doing a burn. I was called by a member of the community, so I went out there, spent 2 hours of my time, trying to sort out who's at fault because there's soot dropping out of the sky from burns, and the cars are wet, and so you got to clean them off. So I think it isn't realistic, though I understand the purpose of what you're saying. If people were neglectful all the time, and it were the same individuals doing this, I think you're looking at a different remedy, and we just aren't going to get there by penalizing people who may need wages every single month. And if a event comes up where a family member dies or somebody's in the hospital and you have to be absent, so we want to penalize them for that. I'm not sure it's a realistic view of how life goes, in my opinion. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Meek. Anybody got anything else on this? I'm gonna go with, I like to throw my opinion out there on occasion, so.
I brought it up.
Yeah.
We've discussed it. There's a motion on the
Yeah.
floor. We need to vote.
And okay, well, let's vote it then.
We need that.
Let's do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Crabtree,
Yes.
Councilmember Craig,
No.
Councilmember Martin,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcox,
No.
Councilmember Meek,
No.
Councilmember Lumberger,
No.
Councilmember Keel,
No.
Councilmember Bell,
No.
Councilmember Handy,
I'm going to abstain from this one.
okay, Councilmember Francis,
No.
Councilmember Smiley,
No.
Councilmember Marsh,
No.
and the motion does not pass.
All right. Thank you. I'll flip my paper over, sorry. Well, that gets us down to, other. Does anybody have any other business, maybe? Miss
I do.
Craig?
Speaking of things that go on behind the scenes and not in meetings, I want to just take a second and talk about a a media, well, I mean, it was put out by the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, but then WHOP picked it up. So I just want to make sure that we take a couple of minutes and talk about the intersection of Canton Pike and Pile Lane. If you haven't seen this already, that is going to be transitioned into a four-way stop. This has been something that we've been trying to get something done on this intersection for years and years and years and years. And I was kind of hoping for a super positive, excited result from my ward and from the rest of the city. And it's been a little bit mixed. You've got a lot of people who are not understanding why it's changing, or other people who insist that they know more than the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. So anyway, I have asked Dave Herndon if he would give us a quick rundown of why exactly this change is taking place and how the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet has come to the conclusion that this is the best option. Thanks, Dave.
And invite the second best dressed man in
Yes,
the room.
he's looking good today.
You owe me. You owe me.
For those of you who didn't know, it is who wore it better, me or Daryl. Tom, can you bring the QR code up for today? But seriously, this is a battle that we as a city have been fighting for a long time. Councilmember Craig, when she was elected, periodically, maybe annually, would send
2017, to be exact.
would say, hey, can we check into the intersection and check in the intersection? And I want to say about 8 months ago, maybe something like that, we kept on. There was just a series of accidents at that intersection. It just seemed like every time you open the news, you'd see an accident at that intersection. So, Councilman Craig, again, what can we do? So we did a brief analysis, and to sum it up, we looked at the top 10 worst intersections in the city. Okay, Canton Pile is number 7 on that list. Okay, do you know what the other 9 have in common? They have traffic signals. They have full red, yellow, amber, green traffic signals. Canton's got a two-way stop out there. So we have begged, pleaded with KYTC to do something about this intersection, and we finally got a little forward momentum going in the fall. We talked to them. We said, what can you do? What can you do? So I want to say in January, we slated a meeting to meet with them, and they proposed that they wanted to put a 4-way stop in. And for those to address some of the concerns that I've seen on social media, why aren't they putting in a full traffic signal? So you'll hear engineers throw around terms like vertical curves. Well, that's a hill, okay? Horizontal curve is a curve. So you have horizontal and vertical curves at the intersection. As as you approach it, if you're going out toward Food Line, you turn there's a curve left, and there's also a hill down, that vertical curve. So it's not an ideal situation for a full traffic signal, and so I don't think we're going to get that out of KYTC. I just don't. On the 20-year plan, kind of the wish list, is a roundabout. I hope I will not see dirt moving on that before I retire, but I hope before I die there is a roundabout there, for goodness sake. But this is a huge win, in my opinion, for safety. It's going to take a lot of getting used to, and we're probably going to have a lot of growing pains out there at that intersection. Thankfully, Chief News all over. We're going to be, I'm sure they'll have to do some responses out there, but they already are. So I think this is a huge win for the city, getting KYTC to move forward with some safety action at that intersection. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy and try and address them. So.
One more thing, can I add to that? The question that I've been getting is it going to be a flashing red light and stop signs?
Yes.
That's what I assume, but I wanted to just clarify that. And just one more thing I wanted to mention is that this change is taking place on Tuesday. So everybody be aware, it's going to take a little getting used to, and people are going to complain, and it's going to be okay. It was the same way we had that new four-way stop over by Millbrook School. It took some getting used to, and now everybody's happy. So hopefully this will make that intersection safer, but I'm asking for the council and for the public in general to just be mindful of it, and we're going to have good attitudes, and it's going to be a safer intersection.
So not to throw anybody under the bus, but we were told that we were going to get about a month's notice, and the message boards were going to go out a couple of weeks in advance that there was going to be a upcoming traffic change, and now that has been changed to when the stop signs go up, they're going to they've got the big flashing message boards out that say, new stop sign or something like this. So we expected way more than about a week's notice for this change to occur. So.
Any more questions for second best dressed guy in the room tonight?
Oh, man.
If you'd have had a tie pin, I think that may have done it. I don't know. On that note, we are down to adjournment. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
I got Marcia. I got Amy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Get out of here.